It goes back to the day before the loop began. At night, Encred places his hand on his chest and thinks he can feel Rem stimulating his heart, but he can't do it alone. He remembers Rem saying, "If it doesn't work, there's no helping it." Encred knows he must learn when to accept his limits and give up. But to him, giving up means settling for the state he's in, and that's the same as dying. Even in the past, when learning skills unlike the genius squad members, Encred had to find his own way. Instead of fearing death, he learned to raise his focus through fighting a rival, like single-point focus. Closing his eyes, Encred wonders, what does the heart of brute strength require? Where does it begin? The scene shifts to the present. Encred's heart starts to bleed due to Rem's forceful stimulation. Ragna pulls Rem forcefully and calls him a crazy barbarian. Jackson and Auden desperately try to wake Encred, shouting his name and telling him to get a hold of himself. As Encred closes his eyes and takes his last breath, the boatman appears and mockingly asks if this pathetic plan is the best he could think of. Just keep blowing his heart apart until he dies. Encred replies, "The heart of brute strength is the brute force that appears in a crisis, used even in ordinary times. Meaning, if there's a moment of crisis, then activating the heart of brute strength will be easier." The boatman tells Encred he is not an ordinary madman. It asks if he ever thinks about the agony of dying over and over again. Encred says he can endure it, as long as he can take even one step further. Another loop begins. Rem tells Encred, "Today's a bust." Though disappointed, he advises Encred not to cling to what doesn't work, to wash his feet and sleep. Encred thinks this is the 27th loop, and he still can't move his heart on his own. Frustration gnaws at him, a sharp, familiar companion. Encred stops Rem and insists that if Rem stimulates his heart harder, it should work. Rem angrily asks if he wants him to kill him. With a serious face, Encred affirms. Rem grits his teeth and replies, even if he is insane, he should at least be insane with some grace. Plus, he doesn't like killing his superiors. Hearing that, Encred gets confused. Mockingly, Encred calls Rem a noble killer. He hadn't expected Rem to care. While leaving, Rem points at Encred and says if he keeps flapping his mouth about his secrets, he will get it ripped open. As he watches Rem leave, Encred wonders why Rem's reaction is different from all the previous loops. At night, Encred thinks, even if it's a wall he built himself, if he can't cross it. The day repeats again. Even with time left over, he can just train, so it's not a problem. But he wonders again, why Rem didn't listen to him this time around. Encred decides he will keep repeating the loop until he finds out. On the 30th loop, Encred tells Rem to stimulate his heart harder. Rem doesn't listen. At the 40th loop, Encred tells him again. Still no response. At the 50th loop, Encred insists. Nothing changes. On the 60th loop, with a serious look, Encred tells Rem to trust him, telling him that it's an order. Rem is taken aback by Encred's words, but starts stimulating his heart harder. Encred realizes that after about 60 repetitions, Rem only listens when it's a command. The others too. Encred reflects that all of them were rejects, gathered into this squad because they wouldn't obey orders. Encred thought they wouldn't listen to him either, so he hadn't bothered trying to control them. But at some point, they began obeying his commands faithfully. Encred is curious about the reason, but for now, he will focus on mastering the heart of brute strength. He must make the heart pound hard, circulate blood through the body, and feel the muscles surge with strength beyond their limits, beyond what seems humanly possible. In every loop, Encred tells Rem to stimulate his heart harder again and again. But his heart bursts each time, and he dies coughing blood. The more the loop repeats, the more determined and scary Encred became, to the point where even Rem was starting to feel the pressure and getting frustrated. Then, at some point, Encred notices something different. His heart is stable. It didn't burst. Rem is surprised. In just one day, Encred has mastered the sensation of moving his heart. Encred thinks, after repeating the loop over and over again, he finally succeeded in bursting his own heart by himself. After hundreds of loops have passed, Encred is ready to test his newfound strength. Encred stands next to a stone cliff holding his sword, ready to charge, while everyone waits patiently to see Encred's demonstration. Rem gets shocked at what he sees. Encred charges toward the cliff, his eyes sharp and focused. His heart starts to beat faster and activates the heart of brute strength. He attacks the stone cliff with all his strength, shattering it into pieces with just one strike. The debris explode outward as Encred maintains his stance. He finally crossed the wall he built himself. The squad watches in awe, their faces reflecting fear, respect, and admiration. With a serious tone, Rem speaks up and tells Encred he wants to ask him two things. First, is he from the West by any chance? Second, was he actually a genius? With an indifferent tone, Encred replies, he is neither.